So we'll get to the end of the horror story here and how to read it. But there is a lot at stake here, because the entire universe and a little place called Earth boils down to what you and I say on Judgment Day. Here's what I tell everybody. When you come before the Maker and you realize it is real, say one thing: where is the only begotten Son of Father El? And you will make it into sky heaven. Don't choose the door with your pastor behind it. Don't choose the door with what school you went to, because it's not a good door. There'll be a vote. And you've got to make the right vote. So I just wanted to take a second in the middle of this craziness that's going to get crazier, because it's the Word, is that you understand one thing. That lady this morning transformed me, put me in a position to enter into sky heaven, because I understand love one another.
I see you now, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. The warrior, I hear you calling me, and I come running. I hear you calling me, and I come running.
Back to the code and the book. The first two Adams are not from Father El, as he said, my only begotten Son. And that was the last Adam, Jesus, who was quickened into the spiritual realm and sits on a wise horse waiting for the final battle. Once you understand the difference between a begotten man without parents and one born of the womb, and can apply the code and identify what kind of man is being referred to in the book, a new identity can be assumed. It is not a religion, but a simple term my father used for me when I was a kid. Young man, Johnny, you're a Bible thumper. Dad, that's the best thing you ever said to me. Moving on now to gods: Elohim, God; Jehovah, Lord; and how to identify them by name and definition. Reconfirming one commandment said no other gods. So there are more than one God in the Bible. Granted, some are statues, many still pray to, and other spiritual beings. In Isaiah 44:17, a man gathered up wood and made a fire and cooked his dinner. After dinner, the man said, I must pray, but need a God to pray to. So he took the rest of the wood, left it over the fire, took it out of the fire, carved a statue out of the wood, put it on a statue on a rock, and said, be my God, and prayed to it. Now listen, that piece of wood is not God, El 410, the supreme deity. It's a piece of wood. Therefore, it's determined as a false god. There will be no other gods before me. That's Isaiah 44:17. And the residual thereof he maketh a god, even his graven image. He falleth down unto it, worshipped it, and prayed unto it, said, deliver me, for thou art my God. Note the man referred to the piece of wood as El, as God, the supreme deity. But the fellow really made an Elohim, or false, or El God, out of a piece of wood. You cannot make the supreme deity over all the universe into a piece of wood. So now we have Elohim, word number 430, the creator who made the first Adam, and a female in Genesis 1:28. Also Jehovah, Lord, word number 3068, the garden builder who made the second Adam and Eve in Genesis 2:28. El as God does not show up in the book until the days of Abraham, when Melchizedek mentioned him as a possessor of heaven and earth in Genesis 14:19. Now let me say that again. The first time that you see the word El as God is in Genesis 14:19 as the possessor. Note the fellow who prayed to the piece of wood called the piece of wood El in Hebrew. If you were Hebrew and spoke Hebrew, El, Elohim, and Jehovah are three different characters in the book you are reading. Again, that is why this Bible thumper, yours truly, is referring to them by name and the number of the name in the Hebrew dictionary tied to a concordance. El is God's first appearance is in Genesis 14:19 and is identified as the possessor of heaven and earth. And it says in Genesis 14:9, and he blessed him and said, "Blessed be Abram, the most high God, possessor of heaven and earth." So that would be the most high El, word number 410. Elohim's first appearance is in the first verse of the Bible as creator. In the beginning, Elohim, that's word number 433, created the heaven and the earth. I got to tell you, years ago, I was down on a house on the beach in Mexico. I got really sick the night before one of the biggest days of my life. Because I got up the next morning after I got really sick, and I opened up my concordance, and the word God's in there like 1,400 times. And you can just go down, God 430, God 430, God 430. And I got all the way down and said, well, look at here. Here's word number 410. Now, this is back a long time ago, before the web, and all of these tools that you had. I said, well, what's up with this? And I read it and I said, possessor. Hold on a minute. Well, who's the creator? In the beginning, Elohim created the heaven and the earth. Jehovah's first appearance is right after Elohim is done in creation in Genesis 2. In that day, the Lord God made the earth. Jehovah is referred to as Lord God, and note the word God right after Lord is Elohim in Genesis 2:4. In Hebrew, it would be Jehovah Elohim, Jehovah false God. That's by definition. Look it up, crack the code, and look and see what Elohim means. Going back to the man who prayed to a piece of wood, he said to the wood, be my El, be not my Elohim, because he spoke Hebrew. He knew the difference between the real deal and a false deity. El, word number 410, by definition means supreme deity. And it's one word, El. Elohim is two words, using El as the base root word. The word ball is the base root word for baseball, football, and basketball. All come from the base root word ball. You study the word Elohim, you will find Elohim is two words like baseball and comes from the root word El. In other words, Elohim is still an angelic, just not the big kahuna. A deity, just not the supreme deity. The Lord is referred to in most cases as the Lord God or the Lord Elohim or Jehovah false God. Jehovah Lord is one of the most powerful beings in the universe who made a race of people and built a garden, parted the waters, and a very powerful bud. He is not the most powerful being in the universe. El is the supreme deity. The supreme deity possessed a planet named the Earth, made by Elohim, that was part of his creation and his universe. You know what? A young fellow made a slingshot one morning. He showed his father how he could hit the bullseye. The father complimented the son on his creation, got in his car and went to work. Well, when the father returned from work that night, he noticed 4 dead birds on the grass. He went in and said to his son, "Did you kill the birds with your creation?" The father took the slingshot, he possessed it, and said to his son, "Your creation has turned out bad, son." The father did not create the problem, but he possessed the slingshot from the maker, his son. Father El in sky heaven is not Elohim the creator. He's not Jehovah the garden builder. He possessed the earth, and the Old Testament eventually was finished. With all of the death, pestilence, incest, evil in the Old Testament, El waited and gave his testimony in the New Testament. He begat the last Adam, and his name was Jesus. The man destroyed the tablets made with stone and all the rules of the Old Testament in his testimony. He kept the rules and the law and won the battle in a 3-hour eclipse at Calvary. To know the gods and the men of the Bible is to know who the last Adam is. To know the last Adam, our souls can be quickened to know the Father and become part of his armies in sky heaven to ride with the warrior. We can be quickened to understand the book as well. Thus, from this time forward, you as a Bible thumper, you would identify each man and now each God as it appears in the book. I have used Jehovah, which is word 3068 in the Hebrew Bible, as Lord. Now the word Elohim, which is word number 430, and also El, which is word number 410. Remember Johnny and Danny? Okay, I'm number 17, Danny's number 310, or something like that. Okay? We got a number in a book by our name. These guys have the same thing. They're characters in a book. They have names, and they have numbers right next to them. The reason we prefer the King James Bible is the concordance that refers to each and every word by definition and even marks the word with a number next to it. To understand the code in the book is to identify what type of man or God is being described. One more time. The first Adam had no parents when he was handmade or begotten by Elohim, number 430 in the book of names, Genesis 1:28. The second Adam was made or begotten by Jehovah, Lord, in Genesis 2:28 in the garden. No parents. The last man made or begotten was Jesus, and he was begotten by Father El. He is the quickening spirit in the New Testament of Father El's first appearance, Genesis 14:18. He possessed the earth like Dad possessed the slingshot from the son that made the slingshot and killed a bunch of birds. Note, Elohim and Yhovah both list their own generations. Remember, we read it. Elohim identifies his Adam through bloodline and names his son Seth. However, this Adam who begat his son in his own likeness is identified as word number 121. A different type of Adam, as word number 120, had a wife Eve, and through conception Cain was born of the womb. This is absolute proof of two bloodlines by two men made by two different angelics. Genesis 5:1. This is the book of generations of Adam. Go to a search engine or pull out a concordance and look at that word. It's number 121. It's not word number 120. 120 is not 121. This is the book of the generations of Adam, word number 121. In the day that God created man in the likeness of Elohim made he him. So, Genesis 5:3, and Adam, number 121, lived 130 years and begat a son in his own image, after his image, and called his name Seth. Jehovah identifies his Adam as number 120 in the singular when he gives his name and a wife named Eve, again proving two gods created two races of Adams called mankind. Genesis 4:1. This is the second bloodline. And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Jehovah. And she again bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of the sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. Unlike Elohim's Adam number 121, Jehovah's Adam number 120 has a wife who had a son who had a wife who conceived. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Enoch. Bloodline number 1, Seth was the son of Adam, who was begotten, and Seth begat a son named Enos in Elohim's creation. Bloodline number 2, Cain was the son of Adam with a mother named Eve, and Cain knew his wife, and his son's name was Enoch. We now know who the first Adam was and the last Adam as well. In addition, we know the difference between a man born of the womb and a man made with the hands of an angelic. Also, God's by name Elohim, the creator, finished his creation in Genesis 2:1, and 2 verses later, Jehovah begins his creation in Genesis 2:3. El came and possessed it in Genesis 14:18, and 3 gods have sons they created, which are referred to as Adam or mankind.